Good morning. Happy Monday. Woof. So, Brent asked about the stock market. So I thought it'd be a good topic to talk about this week, or at least a couple of days of this week, just because there's a lot to talk about. So, and her question to me was, what do I think about the stock market? Well, I have invested a lot in the stock market. I've managed a lot of my own money in the stock market. I've paid a lot of attention to this and tried to learn a great deal, reading and watching all kinds of different things. So here's kind of a situation of where we're at. We're in the longest bull market in the history of the country. The previous longest bull market started in March of 2009 and went on for a little over 9 years before the latest issue that we had. And then we're still in the middle of the longest bull. So now this bull market is longer by about a year. The previous bull market, which started in March of 2009, actually saw a greater increase in the S&P 500 in terms of percentage. During that bull market, the S&P 500 went up over 400%, and we're up a little over 300%. Now, we're in unprecedented times in terms of bailouts and in terms of money. Last year in March, when COVID hit and the shutdowns happened, the stock market started to drop significantly, and the United States Treasury started purchasing the debt of all the businesses. So essentially, if you had a publicly traded company, they made it so that you didn't have to pay your debt because the government bought your debt. And then there was a $2 trillion bailout. They did the CARES Act, they did the PPP loans, they did the $1,400 to everybody, and then another $600 to everybody. All of that combined was more than 4 times what's ever been done before. The banking bailout and then the stimulus program that was done in 2008 and 2009 was an $850 billion banking bailout done by the Bush administration right at the end of their term. And then the stimulus that was done under the Obama administration was another $850 billion. And if you recall, there was parts of Wall Street and parts of the business community that argued that the stimulus program that the Obama administration did was not enough. It was $850 billion, and many were arguing it should be $1.5 trillion. And one of the reasons for the stimulus programs that you saw and that you're still seeing is because there's a potential belief that they didn't do enough last time, and that's why the economy grew, but it grew slowly, and it could have done faster if the government would have done more. So let's talk about government bailouts. That's not all that new. The first bailout was actually done under Alexander Hamilton when the Great Depression happened. Then there was a significant bailout, which was then followed by the New Deal. The first significant bailout was done during the Great Depression after the 1929 stock market crash. And how that manifested was people couldn't pay their mortgages because they had all these high interest rate mortgages. And so the United States government bought all the mortgages, refinanced them to low interest, and then just allowed the people to pay them off. Not all the bailouts where the government buys debt turns out to be a bad investment on the part of the government, by the way. A lot of times they will invest, like when they bailed out the car manufacturers, they got all that money back, plus they got stock, and so they made money on that. But where are we in terms of precedent now? The money that was just done last year, not counting the latest done under the Biden administration and what's still coming, if you just do what was done under the Trump administration, for every $5 you have in your pocket, one of those dollars was dumped into the economy in March and in part of the CARES Act and all that stuff. So that's the level of money that's been put into the economy. So for today, first thing to think about, what do you think about the stock market? Well, who the hell knows? You're at the longest bull market in the history of the world. So, is it a time to buy? Well, generally speaking, you'd be cautious. However, when not counting this latest $2 trillion stimulus that was just passed. And I mean, I think it's probably likely that there's going to be an infrastructure bill that gets passed sometime this summer, which will be another whatever. Just the money that was done under the Trump administration last year, that money's all got to go somewhere. I mean, if for every $5 in your pocket you got an additional dollar, which is what happened to the United States economy, it's all got to go somewhere. It's got to filter down somewhere. And you're seeing that in terms of, crazy prices for things. I mean, baseball cards are going nuts. And these online art pieces that are in the cloud, these blockchain art pieces that are selling for millions of dollars, and the first AFTs, the first tweets, that's just, there's so much money sloshing around. So is the stock market going to collapse now? Well, I mean, if you saw a huge drop in the stock market, what probably would happen is people would come in and start buying. So what we are likely to see is some type of inflation. The question is how much inflation and how far will it go? So that's a question to ponder for tomorrow. What's going to happen with all this cash? Where's it all going to go? Currently, the Fed thinks that there'll be inflation, but it'll be short-lived. I can tell you I was in Chicago this past weekend. Are prices up? They are. Are they up ridiculously? No, I wouldn't say ridiculously at all. Do I think that they're going to go up significantly? Absolutely, because what happens when you go through a winter like we did is the companies that survive can charge more, and they can justify charging more. So like if you go to do a wedding this summer and you go to a place to hold the wedding, they're going to be able to look at you and say, look, we haven't been able to do this for a year, so we need to make up, so our price is double. And I think people are probably going to go, okay, well, that makes sense. You guys got to make up for all that time, and so they're gonna pay it. Grandma and grandpa are going to pay it. And so I do think you're going to see prices go up. The Fed thinks that that's going to be short-lived. We have not had any significant inflation in this country for 40 years, since the 1970s, and that's been because of technology. So where do we go from here? Good question. Let's continue that conversation tomorrow. But it's also Monday morning, so in the words of the great Dan Mahoney, let's get after it. What are you doing this week? Did you write down your goals? Have you figured out, have you organized your week? Have you decided what it is that you want to accomplish? Remember, successful people plan. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And they also focus on one or two things at one time, and that's it. They don't focus on a million things. They pick what they're going to do, and they focus on that. So schedule your week. Don't plan to fail, or don't fail to plan. Otherwise, you will fail. And focus on what it is that you want to do and have it only be a couple of things. Don't try to do 80 trillion things at one time. Have a great day, everybody. We're all in this together. Let's take care of each other. We'll talk more about the market tomorrow.